Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
We'll be
Every
He
time
didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. I'm Pawel the Cat, back again with my beautiful co-host,
Evan Rev Runners, man. Back for another exciting week, Pawel. Good to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much. This is Season 5, Episode 32. I'm so glad to be back. Thanks. Big shout out to Keegan for filling in. Clearly, I have to get him to come and replace you now because of how well of a job he did. And I had a blast in Arizona. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Evan,
well, I thought we were going to take you and just send you on the road so that you can be the live reporter, and then I can stay home at the palatial studios of our broadcast center.
If you're going to fund that trip, I am happily going to take it on and do all that work. So welcome, everyone. Remember to like, share, subscribe to our channel. The Lost Trucker is in Arizona tonight. Woo-hoo. And it's great to see that she is doing well. But yeah, Evan, this is Season 5, Episode 32. How are you feeling?
I am feeling super jacked and pumped. The playoffs are going on everywhere or just finished up. We'll talk later on in the show about the KHL and what's wrapped up over there on the other side of the world from where we are in Western Canada, or the western part of the North America. Want to welcome also all of our guests, that especially those of you that joined in from Arizona last week. I want to thank also those that coming out of Nevada. I am just shocked that Arizona and Nevada become states and Florida that actually follow our show. You would think that groups like New York and Massachusetts and in the U.S., but of course, Alberta, you guys are always on board, you beef boys and girls. You guys are great. BC, you guys have been picking up a lot. Also, I want to thank a lot of you that are following us on the X feeds. In other words, the old Twitter feeds as we post and as our shows come up live on there. Appreciate you guys have really been pumping the show for us, and we appreciate it over there, as well as on our YouTube channel. Folks, if you go to our website, you're going to be able to get all that kind of information all around, and you can catch our live YouTube feed. So you're able to subscribe. Go to twoguysinhockeytalk.com. Can kind of read the articles, and Pawel is always faithful to get out there and keep you guys updated in some of the content. We are looking at making some bigger changes for next season too. So what has your week been like, man? It's like, I mean, you looked exhausted last week.
I was exhausted. I apologize to everyone tuning in. My eyes were bloodshot because I barely slept on the flight. And that day we were up early at 4 a.m. to get to the airport, to get to Arizona. The flight was fine. All right. No problem. Arizona was extremely hot, very warm, but I really liked it. And I got to be honest, Evan, I know I didn't get a chance to speak about it. The atmosphere in that place was electric. Say what you want about a college arena, and people will have their critiques. It was wild. It was rambunctious. It was packed, and I feel like there was more than 5,000 people in that arena. I'm not gonna lie. Ran into some big celebrities. Shane Doan was there, and that was a big thing, as well as Jack Michaels. Got to say hello to him with Louis DeBrusque working. He was a little busy, so I didn't get a chance to really get going, but it's been really fun. And so I had a blast going into the thing, but we'll get into that a little bit later because there's a lot of news surrounding Arizona. We have a guest coming onto the show, brought to you tonight by Penny Billionaires. If you heard that amazing, awesome rock star hit at the beginning, that is Penny Billionaires, hard rock, and they are also from Arizona. They are wonderful. They do a lot of great hard rock, so give them a follow wherever you get your music, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever else.
Sweet.
So tonight, enjoy.
Well, guys, welcome for joining us tonight. We have Brooke LoFurno, the hockey writers contributor for the Chicago Blackhawks. We've been working on this date for a little while. Brooke, thanks so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So with every guest that always comes on the show, our first question is always the same. Where did your love of the game first emerge? Was there a moment in your life or someone special in your life that showed you the game, or where you knew you fell in love with the game of hockey?
So my dad actually grew up playing hockey. He stopped after high school, but he always loved the game, and so Blackhawks games were always on the TV growing up. I don't think got into it until I want to say like around 2013. I think after they won the Stanley Cup against the Boston Bruins, I think that's when I really started getting into it. It was actually Andrew Shaw that really kind of enticed me to the game, just because he was such a big personality and he was so personable and everyone always seemed to love him. So it was kind of stuff like that that made me kind of get into the game, but that's kind of how it started. So it always was in my blood, but then I really kind of got into it during their dynasty years.
Well, it's kind of interesting here because so at the beginning of our season, we had Tab on Bamford. So he came on at the early of the season. We knew there was a lot of hype around Bedard and all that kind of stuff, and with Chicago, you know, he comes on and his trademark is his cigar. That's Tab's thing, right? And so your trademark, it seems to be, from what I read about you, is Chicago-isms, things that people say, isms. So maybe give us, what are some isms that if we went to Chicago, we could expect?
It's more, I think, just like kind of like how, when I say Chicago-isms, it's also kind of like Blackhawk-isms. How people kind of see the Blackhawks, if that makes sense. Kind of just like, or even Chicago, I think. Probably just gritty, hardworking, that kind of thing. Blue collar. That's kind of how I would describe Chicago-isms. But I also would say like, kind of like Tab's kind of trademark. My thing is also like Chicago-isms, and I would also say storytelling. I love telling the story of hockey. Kind of like what I love about hockey. I love kind of knowing like what drives the player, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's kind of a lot to unpack there, but yeah, I think there's a lot of fun that goes into it too.
Sweet.
That's awesome. So we've been watching the Blackhawks a little bit on our edge, not only because Tab was on and you're on the show, but we enjoy their hockey. You know, 3 cups in the last decade, you know, quite a dynasty with Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. But there's a changing of the guard with a lot of things that have shifted over. And of course, we know that they're in a rebuild. There's been some, you know, young prospects, including this guy you may have heard of, Connor Bedard. We hear he's pretty good. Don't know. You can ask Evan. But you've been watching a lot of the hockey. You've been writing for hockey writers. What are some of the standouts, given that the season's done and you want to build on this season moving forward, for players that you think that other fan bases or hockey fans should really be paying attention to within the Chicago organization?
So besides Connor Bedard, I think definitely Philip Kurashev. He took a really big step this year playing alongside Bedard. I hope that translates into next season. He went from like 20 points last year to 54 points this year. I mean, it was a really big jump for him. So I think he's definitely one to watch. I think Frank Nazar, their prospect that joined them for the last 3 games, that just came from the University of Michigan, had his goal in his first game, NHL game. I think he's definitely one to watch, and I think fans will really enjoy watching him, even from other teams too as well. They definitely have a lot of good defense prospects too, like Ethan Del Mastro, Nolan Allen, just kind of good. I think they just have so many really entertaining prospects coming their way. So I think they'll be really fun to watch in the future, and for other teams too, other fans as well.
So recently, so you teamed up with Gail over at the Hockey Writers there, and you guys did a whole bunch of player grades. So maybe you can enlighten some folks who maybe haven't read your article. And folks, you guys can go over to the Hockey Writers. We'll have it in the links as well as afterwards as one of our guests on our podcast. So you're going to be able to go follow the stuff that Brooke does. Can you put up on the screen there for everybody so they know how to follow Brooke as well? Just so you guys know, if you want to follow her, it's at Brooke _ guys, that's that little line. It's not a squiggly line, it's an underscore line, and you guys can be able to follow her writing. So you can find this one. You have a few that you put out recently, but I just be curious, who are a few of the grades that were higher than maybe fans expected in Chicago, and who maybe didn't quite make the grade in your guys' grading in your article?
So funny enough, we actually got some comments. Someone thought that we did Ryan Donato too high because he got an A, I believe. Because I think Gail graded him. I did not grade him, but it made sense.
Sure. Throw her under the bus.
Yeah, exactly. But I actually agreed with her on Ryan Donato because people didn't agree with that. But he was actually a really big presence, I think, and he was actually Bedard's best line mate, and he actually worked hard, and he actually produced more than people actually thought he would. So I thought that was warranted. People didn't agree with that. And I did Bedard's grade. I gave him an A, and someone actually argued with me about that. I had a couple people arguing with me about his plus minus or whatever. I don't even know what people were saying, but it seems like the one forward that I think people kind of Lucas Reichel, he's the one that's just everyone has an opinion on him. People think you either are too tough on him or too easy on him. I think we had him in the C kind of area, and a lot of people thought he deserved lower or even higher. I don't even know. But he's the one I think that he was a tough one to grade, I think. And then Taylor Radish, I think a lot of people expected an F. I put him as a D-, but some people thought he should have been lower as an F. That could have gone either way in my book. But either way, I think I would like to say that I think we were pretty fair and that I think we did pretty well. So, but, I guess you can't please everyone or, not everyone agrees, but that's okay. It's all part of the game.
Are you saying people on the internet don't agree with what you posted, in your opinion? That is just bonkers.
Yeah, I know. It's so bonkers. I know. It's brand new to me. It honestly is new to me.
So you talked a little bit about some of the teammates that you guys graded, but of course, with any NHL, the affiliate is very important because development is very important. And we're going to get into a little bit about what you are seeing essentially from players in the future that can make it up. But right now, who do you think in the Rockford Ice Dogs, who is the affiliate for the Chicago team, is someone that people should be keeping an eye on that potentially may take that next step next season and get an opportunity to play maybe bottom pairing minutes, let alone top pairing minutes or top pairing D? What do you think? Or do you follow enough of the Rockford Ice Dog Hounds?
Yeah, so when you asked that question, my first thought was Ethan Del Mastro. He's a defenseman. He was their top pair in Rockford this season. He was an AHL All-Star, and he was also named Rookie of the Year for Ice Hog team awards that they did. So he's actually one that I know defensemen are kind of odd. Sometimes they make the jump, sometimes not. He's actually someone that I actually do believe will make the jump to the NHL next season. He's probably one I may be most positive out of all the prospects maybe that I think will. So I think that's definitely one for development. And also I think Rockford has done an amazing job. I think just in general so far with the prospects, because I think I talked about this earlier, even in some of my articles, that players that went from Rockford, even this year, even if they started with Chicago and then got set down or vice versa, they came back as different players. They look so much better. They look so much more just ready. So I think Rockford with Anders Sorensen, their head coach, is doing a fantastic job. So, but Ethan Del Mastro is definitely, when you asked that question, was the one person I thought for development-wise that could make the jump for sure.
Okay, and the one player I also want to ask you about, because to me, I watched a lot of him throughout his career, is Jason Dickinson. I find that he is really taking a step forward given where he is now and the role he's been able to take on. To the point of almost leadership, assistant captain, like can really bring it. What are your thoughts on Jason Dickinson? And of course, that he resigning. We can talk other resignings, but him as a player and what he's meant for this team, for Connor Bedard and everyone else.
Jason Dickinson has been honestly one of my favorite players on this team this season. I think he's been phenomenal. And what's funny is, I will own this, I was not happy about it when they first traded for him. that was not good on my part. That's not my fondest moment, but I actually, I'm so impressed with him. He had such a monster season. He really, like, everyone was injured this season. We had 10 players on IR at one point, and he was the one that played all 82 games. And then he hit career highs in goals and points, and he was a plus on this team too, when not many players were on the plus scale on this team. So he honestly has been a great leader. He's been kind of brutally honest during post-game interviews. Like, when he's mad, and he shows it, and he's just great leader. I've been so impressed. I'm actually really excited for how he'll do next season, and I love that he's been so versatile. They put him on the top 6, bottom 6. He'll play anywhere, even though he is mainly bottom 6 kind of player. But I think nothing but good things about Jason Dickinson. I think he's been even more than what people expected, and I'm kind of blown away by the season he had.
That's amazing. I think it's, so you talked about, like, if we start going through man games lost, I mean, it was an incredibly bad year. So Chicago dealt with bad on top of bad already. And, Bedard, and then you have the injury, you have all this stuff that happens. But one element that a lot of times, and fans know this, but they just lose track of this, and that is the human element of people. They're just regular folk like you and I, just because they're being paid an NHL salary on an NHL team, living a dream that they dreamed of when they were young, right? I mean, doesn't mean that we're not living the dream too, but they're living that dream that so many people and so few in the world even get a chance to do. However, so it's quite interesting going through some stuff that you've posted and talked about. Maybe share a little bit just around, you have a specific player on the Chicago Blackhawks that says in one of the interviews, now I don't know if you interviewed him or if you just were there or you just did a follow-up on it, but he talked about how he believes he could be a great GM because he's done a lot of good GM decisions. His name is Korchinski, and he's actually been a GM, maybe not NHL, but NHL EA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So maybe tell everyone the story, because I thought this was hilarious, just having a different take and sharing with people in an interview.
So that's also what I love about hockey too. Like I said earlier, I love like seeing players' personalities and stuff like that. I actually was not there for that. It was actually, It came from an article from The Athletic. I think it was Mark Lazarus. He does a player poll with the players every year, and he asks them like fun questions like, who do you think on the team, which defenseman on the team do you think could play forward, and just like fun questions like that.
Yeah.
And I think the question was which teammate, or pick a teammate that you think would make the best general manager. And Korchinski said, I think I could be a pretty good general manager because I had to make some tough decisions playing the NHL video games or something like that. And I thought that was hilarious. And I actually tweeted that because I was like, okay, one, that's relatable. I think we've all been there playing the video games and thinking, I mean, I kind of call myself an armchair general manager myself, just writing articles and stuff. So I thought that was funny and relatable. And I think fans really want to see that side. And I was happy for Korchinski that he said that, because I thought that was awesome. And I think fans enjoyed that too.
That's cool. So moving forward into next season, what are fans expecting? Chicago fans or NHL fans, what are they expecting that next step to be? Should they be potentially competing next season for a playoff spot, or is it still going to be one more year or 2 more years down the line before we get out of this rebuild and they're able to kind of start competing again?
Yeah. So general manager, I think the Kyle Davidson had said that maybe playoffs is not realistically the playoffs is maybe out of reach. And I think he worded it as because the teams are just so good. Like, it might not be realistic, especially with this team, that they could make the playoffs. I think with everyone even healthy this year, maybe I predicted before the season that even with everyone healthy per se, that they would be maybe bottom 10, maybe not bottom 5, but bottom 10. And then obviously everything went wrong. But so he's kind of thinking that they're not going to be a playoff team potentially, and maybe not for maybe 2 more years, but there should be an improvement there. And honestly, they have to start taking steps forward. They cannot keep finishing in the bottom 3. I think that's what he was trying to get at. So I don't know, if I had to guess, I have no clue where they'll end up, but if it's not at least, maybe I would, in my mind, I think even like bottom 10 would even be a big improvement over than what we've seen. So I do think there should be an improvement. It's just not playoff. It's just not going to be playoff related. But like I say, got to start somewhere. Improvement is improvement, you know. So take what you can get.
And I think one of the biggest, not necessarily controversies, but questions a lot of fans have, and maybe you're in tune with the message behind there, is what are your thoughts on Seth Jones and what he brings, given the large contract that he garnered after leaving Columbus, and just what he has done so far and what he can do to better himself to not only continue to be that leader, but one of the best defensemen in the league.
So me and Gail, we're kind of Seth Jones defenders here, and I proudly stand on that because I do think the anger towards him is misdirected. I think fans hate him because of his contract, but it's not his fault he got his contract. Take the contract out of it, and I don't really know what people's arguments are there, so I really do think it's misdirected anger. So I kind of view Seth Jones as he has his flaws, for sure. He's not perfect. But I do think depending on, or just based off of his workload, how he kind of carries the team in minutes, he's a leader. Honestly, it's night and day for the defense when he's not in the lineup. So is he perfect? No, but he is the best on this team, and he does a pretty good job with what he's got. And this season was kind of challenging. He started off slow, but then I think it was like February on, he was a beast. Like, he was just on a roll. So I really do hope, especially now that he's paired with Alex Vlasic. Seth Jones was another one that was same with every defenseman on the team that was kind of just shuffled between partners all the time. No chemistry, but with him and Alex Vlasic now, I truly think that will be a really fun pairing for years to come. So I think Seth Jones is also a very tough critic on himself. He's very honest. He even says when he's not doing well, he owns it, and he's always been like that. So I do think he even said he wants to make this an 82-game thing, not just a 3-month thing where he was on a roll, but make this an 82-game thing. So I do think whatever it is, whatever he was doing, the final 3 months, just continue doing that. And like I said, I think with Alex Vlasic, especially kind of turning into the defenseman he is, that should help. So truly, I do think Seth Jones will be just fine. And I think he'll be very important, going forward too.
And I before Evan gets to his question, sorry, because I just want to add to that. I believe he had an article, I don't know if it was last season, at the beginning of the season or middle of this season. He talked about wanting to be the captain. Now, any hockey fan will tell you Connor Bedard is going to make a great leader, great captain for sure. But he's got a little bit of time, right? Unless you believe that he should be given the seed the way Connor McDavid was and grow into that role. Do you believe that there should be a C for Mr. Seth Jones, or do you think you just wait one more year without a captain and then provide it to Connor Bedard for next season potentially, or even this season coming up?
That's a good question. Here's the thing. I actually think the Blackhawks have a lot of good captain candidates, which is funny. I think Seth Jones will be good. I think even Connor Murphy would be good. Nick Foligno, Connor Bedard. Like, they actually have a lot of good candidates. But I'll be interested to see if they do have a captain candidate. But unpopular opinion, if I had to choose right now who would get the captain, I think it would be Nick Foligno, just because he's kind of carried this team all season. He really has been their backbone. He's been kind of the heart and soul of that locker room. And I wouldn't mind if he had it just for the 2 years he's going to be here, and then give it to Connor Bedard, then just kind of let Connor Bedard grow into his own, kind of let him kind of take that pressure off of him, I think, early, instead of just giving everything to him all at once. Just kind of let him do his thing, grow into it, and then by the time Nick Foligno leaves, it's his team. But that's kind of where I stand. But like I said, I'll be interested. Kyle Davidson was kind of non-committal when he was asked about if the team will get a captain next year. So we'll see. But they have a lot of good candidates for sure.
Interesting enough, just kind of highlighting on that captaincy, I think a lot of people forget that there's an on-ice and an off-ice element of captaincy, because you're still responsible for the leadership. So when you got a new person getting traded in, your job is to reach out, drafts. It might be a matter of connecting with some of the other line mates. It's just not you're on the ice and you get to be the one who is the captain on ice also, right? Or just in the dressing room. It's off the ice, it's practice, there's so much more. And that always worries me about fans when they want to, like, I think McDavid is just very different, and to me, it makes sense when you say someone like Nick or Seth being a captain maybe for 2 years or something to allow, because as much as you were talking about the plus minus with someone like Connor Bedard, and I kept telling people, listen, I have never seen a player of his elite skill and superstardom coming into a league with the least amount of support ever. They tried, but because of all the injuries, like it literally was the least support I've ever seen.
Yeah.
that literally he gets out there, he's like 30 seconds on the ice and the puck's in, right? You know, he
Yeah.
has no chance to even position. And the plus minus when you're a team like you are, I mean, it's amazing even having Mrazek play the way he does. So yeah, that captaincy,
And
I like
staying
it.
healthy.
So I like your point. Yeah, well, yeah.
That's been a big
But the
thing.
point with Nick, I mean, look at him standing up. You know, he didn't have to go into that fight and get himself hurt. But I mean, he does all the. Nick reminds me, Pawel. I was just thinking like Jason Smith of the Oilers back years ago. You know, he's that rugged guy, tough guy, work ethic. He's got all those pieces, and he's got experience.
Yeah. I think there was a moment, and Brooke, you can quickly comment on this. There was a moment on the bench, I think close to the end of the season, where he's sitting next to Bedard and the camera quickly catches it, and they pound each other's like pads or whatever, and he's like, there's so much I wish I could show you and tell you. You know, I don't have enough time. I think it was kind of like it's not verbatim. Your thoughts on his leadership as well for Connor and what he can teach him and imprint on him.
Yeah, I think even Connor Bedard mentioned him. I think this was even during the preseason where he said, like, you know, Foligno's been unbelievable. He likes that word, by the way. He really likes to say the word unbelievable. I've noticed he says it a lot.
Yeah.
But he was saying, like, how I think, I'm not sure which player said it, might have been Bedard, that Foligno, I think, took it upon himself to actually invite his teammates over for dinner. I think, like, one-on-one, just, like, get to know the team. Like, find out what pisses them off, what motivates them, that kind of thing. Because during a trying season, it really helps when you have that bond with your teammates. So he kind of really took it upon himself. And I think Bedard especially really latched onto that. And Bedard talked about Foligno all season long, just how phenomenal he's been and how great he's been for him. So I do think there's such a big connection there too, especially going forward. Like I said, I know Foligno's not going to be on the Blackhawks for a long time, but right now he probably is one of the most important players, especially for Bedard. Just kind of like having that mentorship, having kind of like that protector. And we always call Foligno the team dad, so he might have like that kind of influence on him too. So it's really all just very positive. So I think Foligno was honestly a knockout acquisition in that Boston trade with Taylor Hall, just with everything he's done.
If you could offer a form of support or for fans of the Chicago Blackhawks next season, you know it's still going to be an emotional roller coaster next year still. I mean, it could be the highs and the lows. You're always going to have people with man games. You're going to have a lot of things happening. You got the draft coming up, which is going to be really exciting. I mean, obviously, if you get Macklin Celebrini in the lottery, that's going to mean that you guys obviously, Gary Bettman set it up, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny. I was going back and forth on X and with someone. They're like, "You watch, Bettman's going to give him the next 3-4 first overall draft picks." I'm like, "You don't know how this works, do you, buddy?" Just like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
If they get it this year,
just one.
They're not getting it. Yeah. I mean, but this is a good year to be able to get it if you get a chance. So is there talk? So there's two pieces to my question. What would you suggest to fans how to prepare themselves emotionally? And then the second part is there talk? Is there like a consensus if they don't get the first overall in the draft? Is there a consensus of who they want second or third?
Ooh, do you know what? I think Blackhawk fans have kind of I felt like earlier on this season, I saw more Blackhawk fans being like, we need Celebrini, like this team needs Celebrini. Now I feel like they're kind of like, you know what? If they don't get which is highly likely, then it is what it is kind of thing. I think, do you know what's funny about this draft is that it seems like there's just no one is agreeing on like who could go second or third or fourth, kind of like last year where it was like, it's going to be Leo Carlson and Adam Fantilli. This year, everyone's like, it's a free-for-all. I would rather pick so-and-so or so-and-so here. So I honestly have no clue where I would think the Hawks would go there. I know there's a lot of talk about Sam Dickinson and Caden Lindstrom and that defenseman from Michigan State. I can't pronounce his name. That Levshunov. I could be mispronouncing
Levshunov,
that. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So if I had to put money on it, that's where I think the Hawks go. But we'll see. Like you said, maybe they do.
Because of defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Build on the back end. That's
exactly. Big defenseman.
And he's big.
Yeah, very big.
Big and quick. Good agile. Interesting.
Yeah, and the Blackhawks honestly are building a very big defense core. I think Seth Jones is 6'4", Del Mastro's 6'4". They have Louis Crevier who is 6'8". They're like trying to build a big defense here. But as far as like next season and like what I could kind of say to fans or kind of help them. So I think there was like this consensus that it's kind of like if you keep your expectations low, you won't be disappointed. I think we can get past that now. I think fans should start having a little bit higher expectations for this team. Like get past the tanking, get past the losing. And honestly, at this point, my expectation for this team is get better. And if they don't show improvement, then we're having a different talk about where this team is going because they can't keep going on this trajectory of just being bad. That does nothing for them. So I think the expectation should be to go into next year expecting them to be better. It's not going to be maybe playoff caliber, but anything is better than what they've seen. So I don't really know. I think it is going to be an emotional roller coaster no matter how you put it. But you know what? We can still watch Connor Bedard every night, watching the prospects continue to grow. I think it should have a lot of fun moments next year for sure. Even more, like I said, knock on wood, there's no million injuries or anything like that. But I do think they're on the right track. So I think that's something to kind of hold on to.
That's awesome.
That's great. Now, I know, unfortunately, once Blackhawks are back in the playoffs, you're going to be front and center watching, cheering, getting excited, maybe, blaring Chelsea Dagger, as they say, or maybe you guys are sick of that song now. But we are in the midst of the
never sick of it.
It is a great song. Don't get me wrong. I like it myself, and I've seen the band, so I enjoy them. But we are in the midst of playoffs, and I know Evan was asking you to get a bit of your prediction. So we're hoping to share it here now and get a little bit of your take of your thought process if you are watching or if you're just kind of partaking through the motions of just watching what's there. We've got this is what you posted. So versus Dallas and Vegas, Dallas, Winnipeg. Do you want to go through it a little bit and just kind of talk your way of how you decided on this final?
Sure. And to be honest, I actually thought I'd have a hard time filling it. I had a hard time with last year's playoff bracket. Don't ask me why. I had no clue. So I thought I'd have a bit of trouble, but I actually kind of breezed through this. So if we want to start with Dallas and Vegas, I just like Dallas. I know the Blackhawks beat them, so maybe that was kind of a curse there, but I like their team. I think they're probably one of the most underrated teams in the league, so I can't not go with them. With Winnipeg and Colorado, to be honest, that's one I struggled with, if I'm being honest with you. But it's more because Colorado, I don't think, matches up well against Winnipeg. We saw that during the regular season where Winnipeg just kind of smoked them. And I know that doesn't mean much when it comes to playoff time, but I don't know. That was kind of a gut reaction that maybe Winnipeg might have their number. And Winnipeg is a lot better than I think people expect.
100%. Although Hellebuck has already let in 11 goals in the last 2 games, so you gotta improve.
But what's the chance of that continuing? So the law of favor is actually now in Winnipeg's favor.
I mean, when you have McKinnon and McCarr, I don't know. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, it is hard to count them out for sure. Yeah, that could go either way. Vancouver and Nashville. I'm sorry. Like I said, Nashville, it kind of pains me as a Blackhawks fan who's not a big fan of Nashville. But I think Nashville just clicked at the right time where they went on that run where no one could beat them. And they clicked at the right time. And they're a tough team to play against for sure. And Vancouver, I don't know. I like Vancouver a lot, but something about them I don't like, meaning I just don't think they're going to go. I don't know what it is. I just have a feeling. So that was more of a gut reaction that could be a true upset in my opinion. If you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. No, I think the one with Vancouver, Nashville, I could see Vancouver winning, but I can understand why Nashville will be an underdog. But most of everything else, I'm the same there, except for the Vancouver pick.
Yeah. That we'll see what happens there, but
the playoffs.
Yeah, you never know. I could be way off there, but Edmonton and LA, I just have a hard time not picking Edmonton in the first round. And I thought LA was good, but I don't know if they're good enough to beat Edmonton, kind of thing. I don't know.
I think the big factor is Pierre-Luc Dubois, and he has not brought it all season. It's hard to see if he could turn the light switch on and really elevate his game in the playoffs. But interesting. And on the east side there,
so I got Florida, definitely. I think Tampa Bay's time has passed, if I'm being honest with you. They're still good, but it kind of reminds me of the Blackhawks dynasty. They won their cups, and now you can see they're kind of starting to decline a little bit. So I have a hard time not picking Florida there. And now they're up 2-0 in the series, so there you go. Well, anything can happen, but it's a good indicator.
That's saved by Bobrovsky. I don't know if you saw it. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. That was amazing.
Oh, that was unreal, the windmill almost-esque save. But
Yeah, I was telling my dad actually because I was watching the game with him. I was telling him like if the Panthers don't win that game after he made that save, then I don't know what to say about that because that was a complete like total. He needed to do that for them to win. So if they didn't, then the team would have owed him a big dinner. I don't
Just
know, that would've
thinking,
been tough to see.
Bobrovsky, right? Couldn't even be had for his contract like 2 years ago. They were trying to find a way to get out of that contract, and and this just goes to show you that it can change momentum so quickly.
I think, like you indicated with Jason Dickinson, I think it's the right fit. For some reason, that is the system that works best. So. And then you've got Rangers in Carolina.
I agree with that for sure.
And I guess just to allude, not to take too much time, your final. So Florida versus Dallas. What are you seeing there? What's the storyline there?
I actually had a hard time with this one because I kind of thought maybe the Rangers would beat Florida in that series. I don't know. But again, there's something about New York I don't trust, and I don't know what it is, but there's something there. And so maybe Florida could kind of run it back. But Dallas, like I said, I like Dallas. I don't know what it is about Dallas, but I really like them. And if they can get past Vegas, I think they got a good shot. So we'll see. Like I said, I think I picked Dallas last year in my bracket too. I'm not sure. So I think I'm just going to pick them every year until they win. We'll see. That's kind of my thought process now.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Brooke, so much. We're going to let you go here. Thank you for taking the time. Guys, if you want to follow Brooke LoFurno, you can follow her at the Hockey Writers. She's a contributor for the Blackhawks, so follow her throughout the year. Now, you guys used to do something for the Hockey Writers. I believe you're not doing it, or are you going to be picking it up again? Blackhawks Banter, where you kind of do a podcast.
Yeah, we took a break from that, but we might start that back up again.
Oh, it's ready. You know what? That'd be a great one in September to get up and going again. Get them all excited.
Yeah, exactly. And now that the team's getting better, we might have some stuff to talk about, which is exciting.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thanks for working around your schedule this last couple weeks here to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Brooke.
Yes. Yeah, we hope to have you on the show again. So thank you and all the best and good luck in your future endeavors.
Sweet.
Thank you so much. I'd love to come back on again in the future. Have a great show.
Have a good one. Keep your stick on the ice. Awesome, man. Great stuff.
Thank you, Brooke. So once again, you guys can follow Brooke. She's a Chicago Blackhawks contributor for the Hockey Writer at X/Twitter, Brooke_Lofo. I thought I should have said a YOLO because you only live once, and share your passion for the Hawks. And you can check out her article. She's done some really good work out there. So give it a follow. It's amazing. All right, and we got Kyle tuning in. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? Oh, those Bruins. I got to tell you, I've become the biggest Bruin fan right now. Do you want to quickly talk, Evan, about the series with the Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs? And then I want to get into, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about lost players and development, including Carter.
Okay. All right, so let's hit it on the I mean, I probably shouldn't say anything because if you want to catch the game later, I can tell you it's a ring of ding-dong dandy right now going on between the Bruins and the Leafs. There's so much drama that's happening behind it. So if you're a person that absolutely loves a lot of drama in what's going on off the ice, the gamesmanship, all that stuff, the media and how they interconnect and share stuff, it's a great storyline with it. You got to love, everyone's getting all going on Brad Marchand. Did he take a shot to the right leg and then he pretends and holds his left leg? And they're like, no, you don't have the right angle on the camera. And I mean, it just made a lot of excitement around it, right? Which goalie's going to start for Toronto? And is this Toronto's good schedule? Now, you got Montgomery going on about saying how they're supposed to be the home team, but yet they have to practice in Toronto. And, it's like, oh my goodness.
That psychological warfare is very intentional by any coach. And if you ever watch any of John Cooper's interviews, you will see that he is a master at it.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of things going on. It's been a wild physical series. Like Toronto has really brought it. Austin Matthews had a great game too. I don't know if you guys saw it. Like he really took the game on his shoulders. Interesting that William Nylander's not playing, even though he's skating in practice. Don't know much about that. I know they said there's some kind of injury. I think that the discussion has been that there is concussion potentially, but who knows?
You know what?
So we'll see what happens.
What I also wonder about stuff like that is it could be like a muscle tear, like an abdominal muscle tear or things like that you got to be. They're not sure. And so you just got to be careful it doesn't get thrown off and then he's out for the whole series, right?
Yeah.
With it.
And if you're doing well, I mean, the series is tied 1-1 so far, so anything is possible, right? But let's talk about players being given up. So Carter Verhaeghe, he was a draft pick for the Toronto Maple Leafs, got given away, traded away essentially. Even Steve Dangle didn't think he was going to amount to anything, and now he's scoring game-winning goals for the Florida Panthers. He's having great season for the last few little years. And you know what this goes back to, Evan, and I'll let you get your thoughts in right away, is that every time I see fans talk about a prospect, you go through your Revs top 15. You guys make sure you go check that out because Revs got some really good top 15 players. Is people say they play one game, he's a bust, or he's the greatest player in the world. But normally, he's a bust. When development takes time, we've talked about it with previous guests. We've seen it. Your thoughts on Carter Verhaeghe and what he's been able to bring, and just that slow, gradual development into the NHL, which is the best league in the world.
Well, for one, I'm still Tim Verhaeghe or Tim Verhage. He is out of Edmonton. That is his cousin. He helped us get Glenn Ringdahl, the former vice president of the Vancouver Canucks, on. And so he is my lawyer, and I've been asking him. I need to come back to him. And if you're catching this show, Tim, I need you to contact Carter after the playoffs are over. I wanted it last year, and I want it again. I want to see what ticks in this guy's mind. I mean, he is a guy that has made something out of nothing, like his work ethic and his development and his drive. I mean, he reminds me like of a Zach Hyman or a Ryan Smith kind of a player. Even a Brad Marchand that will do absolutely anything out there, except, his gamesmanship is a very clean kind of gamesmanship that he uses. Interesting thing for it. With Carter Verhaeghe, it was like 4 years and a couple teams before he actually took off. So it wasn't just a quick changeover. And so let's just go to another player who has been doing really well this season. Actually, the Lost Trucker brought them up last week. And that's Dakota Joshua. They gave up on Dakota Joshua. Yeah. And they let him, they traded him away. The team that traded for him didn't even re-sign him. And then he ends up now with Vancouver, who signs him. And
he scores 2 big goals
in a playoff. And now he's got Canuck fans believing that he's a top 6 guy. Which is incredible. Good for him. Careers are like dollars, and careers are built in the playoffs. If you perform well, you're going to, even if you have a regular year. But I think instead of picking on Toronto and saying, hey, Toronto, they let these guys go, we could walk through many teams. We're just kind of picking on Toronto here right now. And this is what I do want to just kind of add into this little piece, why I don't believe goalies are voodoo, is because it's so interesting that people are saying things like, just like, well, this goalie, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect from skaters on some nights. One night they're a superstar. The next night they let everything by. They're terrible defensively. But because they're not the central focus, like baseball, it's a pitcher. In football, in the National Football League or in the Canadian Football League, right? You're dealing, like American football, you're actually dealing with the quarterback. And so those guys are scrutinized. The goalie is exactly like the pitcher and the quarterback, and he's scrutinized constantly. And so we say that, they notice every mistake. But do you notice every mistake of those players out front? Why don't you call a skater a voodoo? I've never heard someone say, oh, defensemen are voodoo. Forwards are voodoo. Well, the same up and downs you see from a goalie, Patrick Waugh. Well, he's voodoo. He let 7 goals in tonight or 6 goals. Like Connor Hellebuck, people are going to start writing about how this is voodoo. You don't know what to expect. You know what to expect. It'll level out. You'll see. That's why you need a good chunk of games to be able to rate a player, not just, or not even just one season. You can have a bad season and then have a good comeback season if you look at some different players. So, all right. Hey, you were talking about Arizona.
Yes.
So let's go back, finish off a little bit more of the experience. You said it was rocking. You got to meet some different people.
It was rocking. We got to meet some of the players, some of the broadcasters. It was really fun. I'll be honest, the beer was a little expensive. $13.25 American.
What?
Yeah,
Woo.
yeah.
Yeah,
There was
Canada
a few
Bear
brawls
stuff
that broke
complaining.
out. I'm sure you've seen the chants where Salt Lake sucks was chanted. Of course, they
Yes.
won. Great way to win the game. But overall, just a great time. A lot of friendly, nice fans. And everyone we talked to really talked about the value and importance of what the team meant to them and their
Yeah.
community. And doesn't matter how old or young they were, the Arizona Coyotes are a part of that identity in that community. So it's hard to see them go. I know there's a lot of excitement for Utah and what that's going to bring for that organization and that city, but really it was a great time. And I'm very blessed and lucky that I was able to go and experience that, even though I know tickets, I could have sold those tickets for quite a pretty penny and maybe not experienced it at the same level, but I had a blast. A lot of Oilers jerseys there, a lot of Oilers fans. Yeah, it was a good time, and we did the standing, and it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. It was pretty solid. And then I got to see our old former guest Sean Fiery out there, who lives there. He's been on an episode
Tampa Bay
previously.
Superfan.
Yeah, and we connected and watched a bit of hockey ourselves together. So shout out to Sean Fiery. It was great seeing him, and we had a blast just kind of catching up, having a beer and just chatting. But,
so let me, hey, I think just before we started the show, you also mentioned that you connected with someone that knew the e-bug for the Arizona team.
Yeah, so one of the moms, I'd have to get her name. We're friends on Facebook. So both her sons, I met in person, grew up playing hockey, watching the Phoenix Coyotes at the time, now Arizona Coyotes, and ended up playing hockey themselves, going through the thing to the point where one son played defense, lefty, and the other played as a goalie. And he got to the point where he was even the e-bug for the Arizona Coyotes, young man. And so it was really fun just seeing him. I'll have to dig up the photo next time, but yeah, she talked about how important it was for her to have her sons grow up and play and be at that final game. And we talked a little bit, about hockey and other stuff in life. So it was really fun.
Let me just highlight. I just want to give some quick information that I've since discovered just around hockey, around Arizona. We'll move over to Salt Lake, and then we'll talk about what's going on in the NHL around coaches, maybe to do a wrap up here today.
Sure.
So I want to update people because a lot of people are like, well, hockey's not moving in Arizona. There's nothing going on. And, there is so much development. I just got some facts. So if I'm looking down, it's just because there's so much that I want to bring to you. So here's some stuff. The U18 in the States, a lot of times what will happen, for example, Tanner Wilson, who I do some work with, he follows us through our Facebook channel, media. And so if you're listening, Tanner, you can always put in the comments too to help us out. And I don't fully understand the system. I'm still learning it, Pawel. And maybe next week our guest is going to be Marcus Ortiz. He formerly played in the SPHL in the Southern Pacific Hockey League in the United States, as well as he's a coach now. He's coaching down there, so he's going to be on. He played in NCAA Division III, so we're talking around and just I would kind of like to learn some of this stuff. But the Coyotes, when they're in the city, what happens in the state? They actually build Coyote programs, junior programs around them, and so the Coyotes U18s this past year fared really well at the Nationals, as did their U16 and U15. The Arizona Bobcats. By the way, they used to be AAA. Now, with the Coyotes leaving, they're not going to be allowed. They'll become inactive with the team. But they were playing in the Tier 2 Nationals. Arizona State University, for example, had 90% capacity at the games in NCAA Div 1 because they now have Div 1. I hope they can keep that. They are beating hockey markets like groups like Detroit and such. The AHL, Tucson Roadrunners, one of the best, well-attended, which to me, by the way, is crazy. Morella's moving in and out of Tucson so he can fill in Mullet. I think he's probably got a lesser fine to pull him out of Tucson than he's going to have for pulling the Coyotes out of Mullet. It's probably a money thing, but you just got $1 billion for a franchise that's been supported by all the other teams. I think it's ridiculous. But this is what I'd like to say. This is, and following a lot, if you haven't followed Craig Morgan, go follow him. he has been the best producer of content coming out, and really good stuff. He's really made a name in the Coyotes and his info sharing around the world, especially North America. I believe, Pavel, it's the politicians around hockey. They do a lot for baseball. They do a lot for football. But you know what? They're the ones that kibosh everything, whether it's councilmen, whether it's the local for state or.
I got to be honest with you, Evan. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no, so that's my opinion, because I see those same groups being okay with this other, because it's so much money. It comes down to money for them, instead of realizing you will make money, but you've got to build the product. And if they look, the last 30 years, they've been building the product, and I think they'll be back in 7-8 years. I really do, around that.
That's fair.
You were gonna make a comment around that, Bill.
Yeah. So the general vibe of most people that I spoke with Arizona, so they're in the know, the fans, they're connected, they know their hockey. They really didn't like the approach and the tactics that Alex Mariuello took. They feel that he really kind of let the team and the city down and really dragged his feet on a lot of these issues. Now, what happens forward, this could be a new chapter, whether you agree or not, but a lot of fans there, and what I read online, and and again, I know it's not a complete picture of what's going on, is that they would like to have the Arizona Coyotes back, but I don't think they would like Alex Mariuello back at the helm as the owner of the franchise. And they believe that this may be that straw. I don't know if you watched the interview with him and Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman had to stop him a few times and kind of, speak up. And Gary Bettman is a lawyer. He's a pro. He knows what he's saying. But at the end of the day, I think I know Gary doesn't maybe a fan or he's on thin ice with Gary, but he's definitely not popular amongst the fan base in Arizona. So just something to know.
But how many
they really
ownerships have they gone through, right? I mean, they've gone through different ownerships, and everyone makes the assumption they just don't get the fans, but they've never been in the right arena situation, except when they first were in America West Airlines. It had bad obstructions and stuff like that around it, but the moment they left, and this has been most of the talk, where they locate has always been an issue in that area, right? With it. And I know most of the younger people now, the people that are there, they're thinking Morella, but he's. This is what I think, Pavel. I think this is what's going to happen. The inactive thing, it makes me believe I cannot see actually him being able to get a team back in time in the 5 years.
You know
but
what go ahead.
You got to take?
No, I know better. Yeah, go ahead. I can hold it.
I think I know we're going a little bit past some of our conversation on this, but I actually wonder what's going to happen is that he is holding that to financially make some gain, build the district that he wants. He doesn't really care probably about the team, but then he sells his rights to somebody else before the 5 years is up, the NHL Board of Governors would approve for the owner of the inactive franchise, that they say yes, that would be a piece. And maybe with something in there, the clause would be they could bring back the history and everything, but they would be a true expansion team, and some type of negotiation to bring them back, because that area is growing. And I do see it, but I don't see it in 5 years. I see it more in 7 to 8 years and some type of thing. But I cannot see they only did this because it was a legal battle. Yep. They had to do what they had to do to move it out. So you had to take, and then let's talk about Salt Lake quickly.
For sure. I'm looking forward to it. The team has just landed and worn their Utah hockey hoodies. Or is that what you wanted to talk about? Or
no, I thought you had something else around Morella or something with the fans.
Oh, yeah. I mean, essentially, I think he's getting away scot-free with a lot of things, legality, because he bought the team for $350 million. He's making $1 billion. A lot of the owners aren't happy because they were subsidizing him. This is essentially to cover it up. The NHL is not doing a good job in terms of PR again, which big surprise, and if only they had two guys in hockey talk, they would be way better. Really, I think what it comes down to is that they will try to get out of this and have a new owner in place, because this isn't just fan bases that are upset. The Board of Governors is not happy with how this proceeded. And Gary Bettman kept reassuring and standing by that decision. And beyond a really solid career for Gary Bettman, and I know people may not agree with that, this is going to be a big stain on his legacy, because I know what he is trying to do, but the way he approached it has not been successful, right?
Yeah.
Also, the fact that the Tuscan Roadrunners, I believe it is, they're going to still play out of the Tucson. Yeah, they're going to play out of that arena in Mullet
and they're
Arena.
leaving a really nice arena. So the Lost Trucker's been there. I even got their one special jersey. It's crazy because I got a bunch of so I have a Tucson jersey, I got an Arizona jersey, and now it's just like inactive. You know, like you hope that something can actually come through. So hey, let's because we're hitting close to our time limit here.
Sure.
A couple things we did want to touch around all the coach situations quickly here before we do a wrap. I do want to make mention. I know they were saying Salt Lake sucks. I'm seeing all over. There's all this stuff. Like, we don't need to get into it. We can spend more time next week on Utah and names and all that stuff. Yeah. Like you said, they were just greeted. Wonderful greeting. I'm so excited for Utah. A lot of people are like, now they don't have a lot of arenas and things like that, but they are building towards that. But the Utah Grizzlies, they've been IHL, AHL. Last week, in our discussion, if you guys didn't be able to catch it, so we had Keegan Bartram on last week co-hosting while Pawel was down live at the Mullet Arena. But we had Chris Kostopoulos, former blue liner, rugged blue liner for the Toronto Maple Leafs and New York Rangers. And he was talking just about remembering him in the IHL, the International Hockey League. And Utah's always, though, has been in love with just the hockey. And we had a young gentleman that I would play football for with his dad back in our high school days. So Lucas Willett, that never got on, that was playing for the Utah Outliers that won their championship in the United States Premier Hockey League. So, Sean, you got to get Lucas to come on because we want to hear what it's like for the fans. We know they're playing in the minors now, right? We're talking just junior leagues and development, but we'd like to know, what were the fans like? What were the support? You guys went down there. You checked it out. So, Lucas, we're going to try and get you on to see if we can do it, even if it's in another 4 or 5 weeks or something. But anyway, I just want to make mention in the WHL, the Medicine Hat Tigers have just signed 16-year-old Schaefer Carroll. And guess where he's from?
Utah. Salt Lake
City. Like, oh my goodness, a WHL player coming from Salt Lake City, of all places. And no, they didn't do it because he's from Salt Lake. They did it because he's a good player. And they're developing players down there. So that's been a great roll-up. I have stuff around the BCHL and stuff. Unless you want something on Utah, maybe we should get over to the coaches.
No, we'll save it because there's a lot going to be happening later on when we're down to the final few series. There's going to be a lot more information coming out. I know that there's been some patents signed off for paid for the trademarks for in the future. So we'll definitely get into that, as well as kind of the legacy of Arizona, including the fact that I guess Utah can't get the stats that they stay with Arizona, which is such a weird thing. But okay, we'll get into it next time.
We'll look,
let's kind of finish up because there's a lot to do, and we're finishing up and coming up at the end of time. Let's talk about a little bit of the coaching carousel. So we know there's been some coach firings this year, and there's quite a few electric coaches out there that potentially could find jobs. Now, most recently, as of I believe yesterday, there you go, 9. David Quinn of the San Jose Sharks has been fired.
That's 9 people now.
That's what I just said, 9.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't hear that.
So 9. And David Quinn of the San Jose Sharks, as well as a hire for the Buffalo Sabres with Lindy Ruff returning. Your thoughts on those two coaches and just the goalie carousel moving forward with some of the other teams that may make changes?
I know, right? It's just like, remember, it's just like they want to fire Lindy, then they want to keep Lindy, and they want to say sorry, Lindy. And then they do let him go.
Buffalo has the chance ready now,
and now they like I feel people are disillusioned to think that Buffalo's going anywhere. And I know some really good people that follow that team. They are destined to still be sitting out of a playoff, I think, next year again. I didn't think they were going to. I was hoping with what I was seeing, the changes. I believe it's not just coaching. I believe Adams needs to go. I can't believe how many people he can go through, sit in that reign. Just because they have talent, he's not building the right kind of team, and he can't blame it on anyone else. He can't blame it on the owner, unless the owner's making decisions for Kevin Adams. I mean, but I never liked that hire. I think they need a new GM to come in. I think it's time. But bringing Lindy back, there was no hiring. There was no going through a carousel of coaches. They just said, we know who we want. They say it's not nostalgic, you know, but I think that, well, I actually have no clue what they're doing, Pawel. And it's not that Lindsay is the wrong person. I think Ruff could be the right. I just feel like, why wouldn't you at least do due diligence? Like, you're worried he's going to get hired? There's Woodcroft. There's Dean Evison. There's Craig Berube, who won a cup, right? DJ Smith, okay, probably not. Lane Lambert, Todd McClellan.
DJ Smith can't be hired right now. He works for the LA organization.
Oh, yeah.
He's an assistant.
That's right, too. Yeah, he moved over there. Good call. Yeah, good call. And I'm just going to say right now, between this offseason and by Christmas next year for the end of 2024, I've already seen on the hot seat. I think you got Sullivan in Pittsburgh. I think you got Keefe in Toronto. Keefe cannot win one round. He's got to win 2 rounds if he's going to stick around, I think. Derek Lalonde, I think he could be gone. Dave Haxtell, I think could be gone out of the Seattle. And these are more coaches to add to that carousel. If it's me, the guys that I see there sitting that I would be the most interested in would be Woodcroft and Craig Berube. Those would be the 2 guys that I'd be looking at if I'm a competitive team right now. Yeah. And I want to bring some, or right on that edge, bringing them in with them. So
awesome. Well, you guys can let us know your thoughts. We appreciate it. Once again, we have gone a little bit over time. This is why we owe 2 guys in overtime. We got to patent that, Evan. Thank you again for tuning in for a wonderful show. Thank you to Brooke for joining us and sharing her insight as a hockey writer for the hockey writers about the Chicago Blackhawks and their future. Remember, guys, we are here every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, talking all things playoffs, all things NHL, all things all hockey, PWHA, KHL, AHL, Junior, BCHL, you name it, Chell, and we are in it. All right? We love hearing from you guys. Remember, we appreciate it. Give a shout out to JR Web Design, who does our website. They do great work. If you need a beautiful, sleek web page, you go to JR Web Design and they will do you a solid. Awesome. Evan, any final thoughts before we take off?
I just want to say to everyone who's been following us all throughout the season, we're going to try our best to keep you updated on as much information, cover as much as possible. Next week, we have Marcus Ortiz. He's been coaching. I think is it the Smoky Mountain Wild. So he's going to be talking. I'm just trying to remember. I apologize, Marcus. So he'll be with us next. We're going to talk about coaching and playing and university hockey, how things are set up in the U.S. Also, in the coming weeks, we got Don Hay that's going to be joining us. He does all his clinics. He's played some NHL games, played in the AHL. We have Perry Pern. Perry Pern is trying to work on around the schedule right now. Carly Jackson. She plays with Toronto as their backup goaltender for the PWHL. She's working on, so we still have some that we're working in, as well as there's a few others that I'm going to mention to you next week when I know that I've confirmed some things.
Confirmed.
But you know what? And we need to take a couple weeks as we go into the weeks with the playoffs. We want to have a lot of time to be able to talk around some of the hot topics because this time next week we could already have people that are out of the playoffs. Yeah. So this is and a team that maybe shouldn't have been. So it's been a blast. Can I just say one thing? Sure. I want to put a shout out for all of you who follow me on Rev Ev, and you guys are watching right now. I can see in our podcast you guys online doing that. Hey, good for you for following live. I thought you guys only checked in later, but apparently you guys have interest during. So thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day and following. We appreciate all places you follow. Follow, subscribe, like us on all social media venues. It's been another ring-a-ding-dong dandy, Pawel. But as we say,
in the meantime and in between time,
keep your stick on the ice.
Stay safe.
Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die, for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all of what's without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.